Historical Society. Many thanks to today's corporate sponsors, Express Tune and Lube, and the William James Family Legacy Group. Financial support from corporate sponsors enables us to produce these tidbits. Today we're going to talk about something I really love. I'm sure the first time I saw a face jug, I didn't say, "Oh, I just have to have one of these." In fact, I was fortunate to grow up surrounded by excellent music and original art, not the picture someone bought to match the sofa at the hardware store. And I can proclaim this because my Big Daddy had 3 huge hardware stores in Metter, Reidsville, and Lyons during the early to mid 1900s. This is a collection that literally grew on me and then also on Bill. You really have to understand their origins to understand their lasting beauty. The late Smith Banks had a wonderful collection that he gave to the art department at Georgia Southern. I understand that it is now packed away in a closet. I first saw these face jugs during my care package deliveries to Smith's home on Donaldson Street that was named for Sheriff John Donaldson. The first face jug that I purchased was from Brown Pottery in North Carolina. I bought it at the Mountain Fair in Hiwassee, Georgia. Daddy and I went for a few days as I was asked to judge several events in my position with the Georgia Hospitality and Travel Association. Oh, what wonderful memories. This is the jug that got it all started. Face jugs in the South are a tradition that is thought to have begun in Edgefield County, South Carolina, by African slaves who worked on plantations as potters. Teeth and eyes were made from white kaolin clay. Jugs were glazed with alkaline glazes and fired in large wood-burning stoves known as keels. We have all heard of Dave the Potter, who was born around 1800 and lost one of his legs in an accident, making him unfit for field work. He was one of the few literate slaves of this time. One use for these ugly face jugs was as a grave marker. Slaves were not allowed a tombstone or a head marker. Hopefully the jug would be so ugly that it would scare away the devil himself. Face jugs were found all along the Underground Railway, which shows how important they were to the African Americans. The second use for face jugs was to scare away children, as sometimes these vessels were used to store moonshine and kerosene. The predecessor of face jugs may just be the Toby jug from England. Americans refer to this as a pitcher, and it is notoriously depicted as a thirsty drinker. Many scholars think this was the inspiration for the slave potters in Edgefield. Here is one of my Toby jugs. A famous potter from Edgefield today is Steve Farrell, and here's a nice piece of his that's in our collection. I have cousins, Nancy and Ralph from Edgefield, that have a tremendous collection of this type of art. When we can make a field trip, I suggest that BCHS sponsor one to Edgefield County, South Carolina. Want to go? In the early 19th century, this art was adopted by white potters, mainly in North Georgia and in Western Carolina. This is because they needed to make a living, and everyday items such as churns and storage jugs were being produced elsewhere in mass quantities. So, face jugs were made. The 2 most prominent potters were Berlin Craig and Lanier Metters. It wasn't until the 1970s, when there was an upscale interest in American folklore by university academics, that the work of Craig and Metters were exposed to a larger American audience. I am fortunate to have a Lanier Metters jug. I also have a Berlin Craig jug. Both of these artists are no longer with us, and both of them have jugs in the Smithsonian collection. This is my Lanier Metters jug. Lanier came to Statesboro at one of our very first art fests that was held in Sweetheart Circle. I remember going to this festival with Smith. Oh, how I wish I had bought 5 of these jugs. Lanier's jugs can fetch as much as $5,000 to $10,000. Yes, you heard correct, 1,000. You can't talk about Georgia folk pottery without mentioning John Burleson. His book, Brothers in Clay, is the gospel. Here's a picture of the cover. Its companion book is From Mud to Jug, The Folk Potters and Pottery of Northeast Georgia. Here is this book. Part 2 of Hideway Tidbits, Face Jugs, will tell about ring jugs, rooster jugs, the Hewell family, Marvin Bailey, Randy Tobias, and other members of the Metters family, and many others. Stay tuned. Until next week, bye-bye.